The beauty of nature, unique monuments and mysterious places. Lower Silesia is a region which offers a lot. It hides many secrets and priceless buildings. It is very well known for the abundance of historic architecture, including palaces and castles. Hi, my name is Damian Urbańczyk, and in this episode of Checkout Time, I'm going to offer you a recipe for an unforgettable journey. This place is associated with one name.
Mariana of Orange-Nassau, or more precisely, Wilhelmina Frederica Louisa Charlotte Mariana van Oranje-Nassau, Princess of the Netherlands, as that's her full title, was the daughter of King William I of the Netherlands. She went down in history as a true philanthropist, a woman who loved music, art, literature, and who is also remembered in our region as a kind lady. She helped the poor and the needy.
She came here for the first time in 1838 because she inherited this place from her mother.
The original plan was for the summer residence to be built within an old monastery complex.
Right, so it was a summer residence?
Yes, our palace is just a summer residence. It's merely Mariana's 19th century summer house. She visited for the first time, fell in love with the views, and declared that it was here where her summer residence had to be built.
And then she decided that this place should be designed by Karl Schinkel, who was then considered to be one of the greatest architects of his time.
Schinkel was the palace's first designer. However, when his health began to fail, he handed over responsibility for the design and construction to his outstanding student, Mr. Ferdinand Martius. In the end, it was Martius who completed the entire project.
I can vividly remember being 7 years old, coming to Lower Silesia for the first time and falling in love with this fascinating region. So now I can fully understand Marianna, who came to Kamieniec in 1838, and her heart whispered, by all means, build this incredible palace, being a statement of your character, passion and resilience. How much time did she spend here?
In fact, Mariana didn't spend much time at the palace, partly because she wasn't allowed to. Due to her tumultuous relationship with her husband, she faced certain restrictions on staying here.
We are being very diplomatic right now, so let's gossip a bit. What was the history of her relation with Albrecht?
After a failed engagement to Gustav Vasa, Mariana was forced to marry her cousin, Prince Albert of the Hohenzollern line. Mariana discovered that her husband was cheating on her, and eventually she'd had enough. Luckily, another man entered her life, Johannes van Rossum. What started as a simple friendship grew into a romance, and from that romance, an illegitimate son, Wilhelm, was born. In the 19th century, especially at the Prussian court, people weren't blind to this. Word quickly spread that Mariana had committed a scandalous misalliance, and according to a famous legend, she was no longer allowed to enter her own residence through the main entrance. As a form of humiliation, she had to enter alongside the servants, so no one would see her. Unofficially, however, she didn't accept this restriction. During the construction, she had a staircase added next to the first tower. This way, she could arrive in her carriage, lift her skirts and enter directly.
history of humanity shows that sometimes just being a man is a game changer, and that we underestimate privileges that we have been given. Imagine being a passionate, powerful, and creative woman living in the 19th century, having your dreams, hopes, and plans, being responsible for creating this enormous and beautiful castle, and in the end, being forced to enter it using the back door. Ironic, isn't it? What we see right now is a very impressive, beautiful, stunning, I would say, silhouette. And a ruin inside.
From 1945, the palace was occupied for nearly a year by the Red Army. They thoroughly looted and destroyed it. 17 freight wagons full of valuables were transported from here to Moscow. The palace was set on fire twice, and they even lit small fires inside. Finally, in the 1980s, something began to change. Włodzimierz Sobiech from Poznań arrived in Kamieniec and became the palace's leaseholder. What we see today is the result of over 20 years of work by Mr. Sobiech and nearly 13 years of the Kamieniec-Ząbkowicki municipality's efforts.
Emotional life of Marianna Oranie-Nassau might have been quite complicated, but money-wise, it is fair to say that she was quite well off. 3 tons of gold went into creating this palace. Let me break it down to you. 3,000 kilos of gold made this place happen. But fortunately, passion can not only give birth to things, but it can also bring them back to life. Imagine going back to the 16th century. The year is 1580, to be exact, which is not 200, not 300, but 450 years ago. The Polish Commonwealth is ruled by István Batory, but Lower Silesia, now a Polish region, then is under supremacy of the Habsburgs. In 1580, Leonard von Rochnau builds his majestic Renaissance castle. And in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the history of this property. According to the golden rule of hospitality, which is expressed in Latin words hospes hospiti sacer, meaning that the guest should be always a saint to the host, everyone here in Uroczysko Siedmiu Stawów is welcomed with utmost reverence. However, I believe that over 400 years ago, when this castle was built, not all the people coming here were greeted with the same positive energy, because then castle was serving its primary purpose, which was protection. Uroczysko Siedmiu Stawów is a big chunk of the history of this region. But everything goes back to the family of Rochnau, to the 1580. Why do we know exactly this date?
Von Rochnau, when adding the palace complex to the existing defensive residential tower, commemorated it on the portal. It's one of the most beautiful portals in Lower Silesia, after Brzeg, actually the most important one. He wrote, I, von Rochnau, with divine help, erected this structure and roofed it in the year 1580.
The portal, being the entrance to Uroczysko Siedmiu Stawów, is like an actual time gate, walking us through centuries of history, with coats of arms and inscriptions being silent witnesses of its past. And the upper part, the skull, the hourglass, and the words "Today me, tomorrow you," being silent reminders of the passing of the time and human frail existence. What was the biggest challenge in rebuilding and restoring this place?
You have to be crazy to do this. Honestly, the tender for this ruin actually included a clause in the notarial deed stating it must remain a permanent ruin. Every stage was a challenge, but the biggest challenge was putting on the roof. Von Ronau, when building this castle, had a huge ego, probably even bigger than mine. The roof pitch is 68 degrees. That's exactly the angle used in Gothic cathedrals. It was meant to be soaring, tall, but the problem was finding beams 13 meters long with the right cross-section. Sawmills don't accept trees that big. They're simply too large, so they don't exist. Some of those beams had to be specially cut for us in the Bieszczady Mountains, and some we sourced from Germany.
What is the idea that could be associated with this place as a hotel?
The idea was essentially a boutique hotel. We didn't try to create a replica of a castle or manor with gilded details. The point was to let the passage of time be visible, the traces of destruction too. We didn't plaster the facade, even though the conservation officer kept asking, "When are you going to plaster it?" I said, "Never." "What do you mean, never?" "It was plastered." "Yes, but that's not the point. The idea is to make the passage of time visible on the building and to preserve the traces of its history, because that history is real. This place was a ruin.
A modern and luxurious spa in a Renaissance building? Why not? Renaissance, or Renaissance, if you will, is a historical period and a movement which is thought to have originated in Italy in the 14th century and lasted until the 17th century. The Italian term rinascita, meaning rebirth, is very on brand with the idea of spa, because after a long treatment you can feel truly reborn. And these historical spaces take us back in time into the 16th century. This place was almost built from scratch. It seems to be exuding history.
We preserved every element we could, and we managed to find specialists capable of restoring, reconstructing, and piecing everything together into something reasonably coherent.
And to incorporate those parts in this beautiful hotel, because, for example, fireplaces.
There used to be many more fireplaces here. We joked that they grew legs and simply vanished from this place.
In my opinion, this place is a perfect juxtaposition of history and modernity. And I truly appreciate the fact that there are some places here or things that don't serve any other purpose than decorative, and yet they remind us of this hotel's past. Is it true that you slept in every single room here before opening to make sure that everything is perfect?
Indeed, my wife and I slept in every room, and basically in each one we found something. For example, we'd realized the TV was behind a column, and then we had to fix this. That's just one anecdotal example, of course.
But everything was tested, changed, and approved. Ovid, a Roman poet, once wrote that beauty is a fragile thing, because although it can take a form of a building, a landscape, a person, a painting, or a vase, we cannot take its presence for granted. And we have to take care of it, we have to cherish it and preserve it for the future generations. And we have to remember that beauty very often lies in the eye of the beholder. You belong to a generation of people who is responsible for decorating these spaces, because this hotel exhibits 3 generations of artists responsible for making ceramics.
I create unique ceramics. I represent ceramic artists connected to Lower Silesia.
Why would you choose to associate your works with this place?
These walls carry such an emotional and historical weight that combining them with art is very difficult, but also offers a kind of creative challenge for the artist. It's not just a place where people come to look at art, but a place where they live. They have to feel good with this art and within the space.
Although in my mind, pottery, ceramics or porcelain seems like something very fragile, we have proofs from thousands of years ago that it can be something very resilient, that it can last for ages, just like these walls.
This is especially evident in the iceberg piece, which references glaciers that are constantly melting, and their volume is constantly changing. In this work, porcelain fixed through firing becomes nearly eternal.
445 years ago, a man decided to build this castle and it brought him joy. 25 years ago, a family came up with an idea to bring it back to life and it gave them happiness. And today, I chose to show it to you and it painted a smile on my face. And it simply proves a claim of Democritus, who said that happiness resides not in possessions and gold, but it dwells in the soul. However, we all know that gold has always been of a great value, and it has always helped to create such beautiful places. In the past, Lower Silesia was a very important gold-bearing area in Europe. The Polish name of this town, Złoty Stok, Golden Slope, and its German name, Reichenstein, which means basically rich stone, reflects its associations with mining wealth. The first written documents about this mine date back to the 13th century, 1273, I believe.
Yes, that's the first document we found about this region. That was the golden era of this region of the gold mine. Everything started with the gold panning. So there was few people coming to the river and trying to find small pieces, pure gold. We call them nuggets, and that was the start of the history. Later on, they started digging through the rocks and finding the gold veins. That was the first era of this mine.
When I think gold, I think Wild Wild West and gold rush, not Poland?
Yes, that was the secret until 1961 when the gold mine was still working. That's why it was very difficult to show it to the public, and that's our idea, to show the people that there is still gold mine in Poland. It's not working anymore, but it was until 1961.
Majority of gold on Earth originated from meteorites which struck our planet 200 million years after its formation. Right now, we are 100 meters underground, and you have to remember that in this gold mine, there are approximately 300 kilometers of such adits and galleries. And yet, we have to keep in mind that in the 16th century, digging 4 centimeters of such space would take approximately a day. So, although sightseeing this mine is a thrilling experience, can you imagine coming here to work every day? Tempting, but no.
We are doing some exploration, some visiting the places where the normal tourists cannot go. And we saw the signs written by the hand on the rock, which we can see it was only meter when they were digging during a year. So that shows how difficult the job was, how slowly they were going into the rocks.
This is absolutely mind-blowing.
Later on, it wasn't even easier. Obviously, they had explosive materials, so the digging was much faster, but then much more dangerous as well.
Visiting this place nowadays, one should remember that in the 15th and 16th century, 150 kilograms of gold were produced here yearly. So throughout 7 centuries of continuous exploitations, approximately 16 tons of this metal were produced here. Impressive, isn't it? But taking under consideration huge density and weight of gold, if we gathered all this amount, it would be represented by this cube. 7 centuries of work. Ta-da! Life in the 16th or 17th century was basically concentrated around this area.
That was a very rich region because we got the gold mine here, silver mine not that far from here. For example, Złotystok, Reichenstein in that time, that was a very rich town, which you cannot see it now, but then it was very rich. It had own mint, so we were producing the coins for whole kingdoms around because of the golden coins and the silver coins. So that was really important part of the Europe at that time.
It is said that more gold has been mined from the thoughts of men than has been taken from the earth. And I honestly hope that with this episode of Checkout Time, showing you the beauty of Lower Silesia and telling the stories of people living here, we have added a few grams of this intellectual gold to the scale. See you next time.